so rich that they no longer have room to breathe. A wide house, full warehouses, plenty of praise. But when night falls, they are still awake because inside them is a bottomless pit. They think only lacking money hurts. But there is another kind of pain, more dangerous. The pain of never, ever feeling enough. And there are also people who think pain is something to take revenge for, something to grit your teeth and endure, something to bury. But sometimes, pain doesn't need revenge. It only needs to be understood. Tonight, I will tell you the story of a man who was once the richest in the region, who once won every bargain, who always took every extra advantage, only to lose in the quietest loss of all, losing to his own greed that never knew enough. And when he lost almost everything, he finally understood two very simple things. The one who knows enough is the richest. Every pain can be resolved through understanding. His name was Lương Phúc. In the region, people spoke of Lương Phúc with a tone that was both admiring and afraid. Admiring because he was rich enough to buy an entire row of market stalls just to rent them out. Afraid because he was cold in a way that didn't require shouting, yet people still trembled. He had 3 rice warehouses, 2 cargo boats, and an orchard stretching all the way to the riverbank. His house had a red tile roof and ironwood pillars. In the yard, there was a rock garden and a fish pond. Every tit season, people passing by looked as if they were looking at something rare in this world. But if you walked into Lương Phúc house at night, you would see a strange scene. He did not sleep. He sat alone in a room, before him account books, an oil lamp, and a large wooden chest. That chest was always locked, and the key was always in his hand. His wife, Mrs. May, asked many times, "What do you keep in there that you guard it like your life?" Lương Phúc answered briefly, "Property." Mrs. May sighed, "You don't lack anything." Lương Phúc gave a faint, bitter smile. "Lacking is because you've never been empty-handed." That sentence was like a small knife wound. It didn't bleed immediately, but it kept aching. In Lương Phúc eyes, life was a marketplace. Whoever was soft got pushed. Whoever trusted got deceived. Whoever knew enough was a fool. He lived by one rule. He must be ahead. Ahead by one coin was still ahead. Ahead by one word was still ahead. Ahead by one piece of land was still ahead. And he called that smart. But that smartness fed a monster inside him, a bottomless chest. In the village, there was a poor man named Tường, a sick wife, a small child, little land. Every flood season was a season of worry. Tường once came to borrow rice from Lương Phúc. Lương Phúc looked him up and down, voice flat. "You can borrow, but interest." Tường nodded like a pecking chicken. "Yes, any interest is fine, as long as it saves my wife and child." Lương Phúc gave him the rice, but along with it came a debt paper. Not just a debt paper, but a rope. A season later, Tường couldn't repay enough. Lương Phúc said, "Short by a little. Even a little short is still short." Tường knelt. "Give me more time." Lương Phúc looked at him and asked a cold question. "If I give you time, who pays me?" Tường fell silent. Lương Phúc continued, "Fine. If you're short, we offset it with land." Just a little short, and Tường lost a piece of field. The villagers whispered. Mrs. Mai heard and said to her husband, "Taking it like that, those people are pitiful." Lương Phúc replied, "Pity doesn't feed a house. If you want to feed them, you feed them." Mrs. Mai fell silent. Her tears fell in silence. Lương Phúc didn't see the tears, or he saw them, but considered them weak. He didn't know that every time he pressed for just a little more, the chest inside him grew deeper by a little more. Lương Phúc had a son named Hao. Hao studied with the village teacher and was gentle by nature. He was not like his father. He often looked at poor people with compassion, not with calculation. One evening, Hao saw his father counting money and asked, "Dad, we're already so rich. Why are you still worried?" Lương Phúc didn't look up, worried to keep it. "Keep it for what, Dad?" Lương Phúc frowned, "So we won't lack." Hao was silent for a moment, then said, "But Dad, have you ever felt enough?" The question was as light as a breath, but it struck the hardest place in Lương Phúc heart. He snapped, "What would a child know?" Hao looked at his father and didn't argue, but his eyes were sad. From that day on, there was an invisible distance in the house, the distance between a man who was always not enough and a child who was beginning to learn enough. Then that night came, a night of strong wind, thunder pounding, black clouds. Lương Phúc rice warehouse caught fire. No one knew why. They only knew the flames burst up as if someone had poured oil. Workers ran in chaos. Screams tore the air. Lương Phúc rushed into the yard, face pale. Water! Scoop water! Save the warehouse! He ran like a madman toward the warehouse, like a man running toward his own heart. Mrs. Mai hugged Hao and cried, "Husband, stop, it's dangerous." Lương Phúc shoved her away. "Let go! That rice is my life. That rice is my life," a sentence no one forgot. The fire climbed onto the roof. Wood popped and cracked. Smoke rolled thick. Lương Phúc charged in. The villagers shouted, "Don't go in! You'll die!" But he didn't hear them. He only heard the voice in his head, losing his death. In the end, people dragged him out. Hair scorched. Hands blistered with burns. Eyes red like blood. The warehouse burned to the ground. That night, Lương Phúc sat before the pile of ash, trembling. Mrs. Mai offered water. He slapped it away. Who did this? He didn't ask to know. He asked because he needed someone to blame. In his head, a name was already there. Tường. The next morning, Lương Phúc led people to Tường house. Tường was sitting beside his sick wife. Seeing Lương Phúc, he trembled with fear. Lương Phúc pointed straight at him. "You burned my warehouse, didn't you?" Tường panicked. "No, oh God, I wouldn't dare." Lương Phúc slapped him, a slap that was fast, neat, and cold. "You wouldn't dare? You lost land, you hate me, you burned it?" Tường pressed his face to the ground. "Sir, I swear, I didn't do it." Mrs. Mai ran after them and shouted, "Don't do this. There's no evidence." Lương Phúc turned and snarled, "Be quiet." Villagers began gathering. Everyone feared Lương Phúc, but today that fear was mixed with something else, disgust, because they saw he was in pain, but he used pain to become cruel. Hao stood behind his mother, face pale. He looked at his father like he was looking at a stranger. Lương Phúc searched Tường house. He found nothing, but he still said, "Not finding it doesn't mean you didn't do it." That sentence, you've heard it somewhere before. It was the sentence of an ego that had been wounded, but refused to admit it was wrong. Tường was beaten, tied up, dragged to the village hall. The villagers were silent. Silent not because they agreed, silent because no one wanted to become the next victim. 3 days later, a child ran to the village chief and said she had seen Lương Phúc servants secretly pouring oil near the warehouse before the fire. The chief investigated. In the end, it was discovered the warehouse manager, the one Lương Phúc trusted most, had burned the warehouse to cover the fact that he had been stealing rice for many months. Because he knew, if it was exposed, Lương Phúc would kill him. Lương Phúc stood as if turned to stone when he heard the news. Not because the warehouse burned, but because of a cruel truth. What he held the tightest could also betray him. Tường was released, but Tường had been beaten. Tường wife had cried until she fainted. Tường child had watched his father being dragged away like an animal. Those images did not burn away like the rice warehouse. They burned in human hearts. Lương Phúc went to Tường house. This time there were no servants, no authority. He stood at the door, looking at Tường. Tường looked back, eyes no longer afraid, only tired. Lương Phúc wanted to say, "I was wrong," but his ego choked as if a bone were stuck. Mrs. Mai stood behind him and whispered, "Say it." Lương Phúc took a deep breath, and finally he said, "I was wrong." Only 2 words. But for him, it was like cutting a piece of flesh from his own heart. Tường was silent. Lương Phúc continued, voice hoarse, "I lost the warehouse, so I went mad. I poured it out on you." Tường looked at him. "You lost the warehouse? You hurt." "I was beaten. I hurt too. But the deepest pain is, my child saw it." Lương Phúc froze. An ordinary sentence, but it made him see something he had never seen before. Pain is not only his. Other people's pain is real too, and deep too. He stood silently, and for the first time in his life, Lương Phúc didn't know what to say to be above. He only knew how to listen. That night, Lương Phúc did not sleep, but this time it wasn't because he feared losing money. It was because he began to fear himself. In the morning, he went out to the riverbank and met an old monk sitting under a tree. The monk looked at him and asked, "What have you lost that makes your eyes so dark?" Lương Phúc answered, "I lost my rice warehouse." The monk nodded. "Do you hurt because of the warehouse or because you feel you can't control life?" Lương Phúc stiffened. The monk spoke slowly. "The one who knows enough is the richest." Lương Phúc let out a bitter laugh. "That's easy to say. Try losing and see." The monk looked at him kindly. "I've lost a lot. I've lost even my loved ones. But I have not lost my mind." Lương Phúc fell silent. The monk asked, "Have you ever looked at a poor person and seen that they still smile?" Lương Phúc remembered Tường, remembered the times Tường carried his child and still bowed in greeting. The monk continued, "Richness is not in the rice warehouse. Richness is in whether you need the rice warehouse to feel that you are alive." Lương Phúc couldn't answer. The monk placed a hand on his own chest. Every pain can be resolved through understanding impermanence, understanding cause and effect, understanding that the tighter you grip, the more it hurts. Lương Phúc listened and felt his throat grow hot. He asked, for the first time in his life in a small voice, "How do I grip less?" The monk replied, "Begin by returning to people what you have taken from them, not only land, but dignity." Lương Phúc went home and opened the wooden chest. Mrs. Mai stood watching, as if watching something strange. Lương Phúc took Tung's debt papers, tore them, sheet by sheet. Mrs. Mai choked, "Husband." Lương Phúc said, "I don't want to be rich this way anymore." He returned the land to Tung, not charity. Returning. The village buzzed. Has Lương Phúc gone crazy? Or is he afraid of karma? Or is he acting? Lương Phúc heard it and didn't argue, because he knew he had lived his whole life to be right. Now that he was truly doing what was right, it was normal that people didn't believe him. He went to each house of those he had once pressured. He said, "I'm sorry, I was wrong, I want to fix it." Some people shut their doors, some cursed, some stayed silent. Each reaction was a knife into his ego. But strangely, the more his ego was cut, the lighter his heart became. Because the bottomless chest was being filled with something else, understanding. One evening, Hao sat beside his father and asked, "Dad, are we still rich now?" Lương Phúc looked at his son and after a long time smiled. "Rich, of course." "Rich in what, Dad?" Lương Phúc put a hand on his son's shoulder. "Rich because Dad knows enough." Hao looked at him, eyes wet. "I only need you to be less angry." Lương Phúc swallowed hard. He looked at the house, still that same house, the oil lamp still yellow, but the air was different, no longer heavy as before. Mrs. Mai walked in, set down a cup of tea and said softly, "It's been a long time since our home has been this peaceful." Lương Phúc looked at her and for the first time said something without calculation. "Thank you for not leaving me." Mrs. Mai turned her face away and wiped her tears. Life did not immediately turn rosy. The warehouse that burned still burned. The money lost was still lost. The honor chipped was still chipped. But his mind was brighter. And when the mind is bright, the world is less dark. If you listen to this story and suddenly feel that inside your heart there is some kind of chest that you are locking tightly, a chest of money, a chest of pride, a chest of winning and losing, a chest of pain you refuse to understand, then tonight, try just one small thing. Ask yourself one question. How much more do I need to finally feel enough? And then ask one more question. The harder one. Am I hurting someone just to fill my own emptiness? If you want me to tell another story, also quiet, also full of drama, about another teaching of the Buddha, leave the word enough in the comments. So I know you are still listening.